The amount of fraud you should tolerate in an American election is zero. My name is Madison Cawthorne. My first act as a member of Congress will be to object to the Electoral College certification of the 2020 election. I want to explain to you why I'm objecting. Because the future of our very nation depends on it. Let's establish two irrefutable facts. First, your vote is sacred in America. A free, fair, and legal election is our birthright as Americans. Second, voter fraud is common in America. Those who are telling you otherwise are lying. Here is a list of thousands, yes, thousands of recent instances of election fraud that has led to criminal convictions and even the overturning of election results in our country. You deserve to know when the sanctity of your vote has been violated. Put simply, the 2020 election violated our Constitution. Article 2, Section 1, Clause 2 of our Constitution declares clearly that state legislatures are solely responsible for determining presidential electors. This means state election laws must be followed to have a fair presidential election. So the question on the legality of the 2020 election becomes simple. Were state laws followed? No. No, they were not. In Pennsylvania, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Minnesota, Nevada, and Wisconsin, election laws were either broken or ignored completely. Here is a basic overview of election violations. In Pennsylvania, mail-in ballots were cast and counted in clear violation of state law. Little or no signature verification, allowing defective ballots, voting days and days after the election, poll watchers banned from polling locations, and tabulation rooms. In Arizona, election officials failed to follow signature comparison requirements and excluded election observers in flagrant violation of state law. In Georgia, Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger unilaterally rescinded Georgia's statute requiring a detailed signature verification of each absentee ballot without legislative approval. Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson, without legislative approval, unilaterally rescinded 2 Michigan statutes related to absentee ballot applications and signature verification. Her office sent unsolicited absentee voter ballot applications by mail to 7.7 million registered Michigan voters prior to the elections. Later, they arbitrarily allowed absentee ballots to be acquired online without signature verification. And then in Minnesota, Secretary of State Steve Simon, a Democrat, passed a consent decree suspending a requirement under Minnesota law that absentee ballots be signed by a witness with a Minnesota address. The state legislature in Minnesota created the witness requirement to protect the integrity of absentee voting. A single official has no right to rescind it. Over in Nevada's Clark County, there were clear violations of signature verification and election observer requirements for mail-in ballots. On top of that, they allowed dead and out-of-state voters to flood the Nevada electoral system this year. Wisconsin decided to put out drop boxes, literally just a box on the side of the road, for absentee ballots. A slap in the face to their own law that states that any ballot not mailed or delivered may not be counted in election results. Ballots were shoved into duffel bags and left in parks and over in gas stations. This is a gross and flagrant violation of the security and sanctity of our election process. Guess who else decided to change their state laws and allow unconstitutional vote drop boxes? Georgia. These violations became even more egregious when you consider that millions of Americans voted in 2020 using mail-in ballots. There is bipartisan agreement from experts that mail-in ballots are wildly susceptible to fraud. Fraud using mail-in balloting has led to criminal convictions in dozens of states in recent elections. Fact check that. Sorry guys, mail-in voting is not secure. These flagrant violations of state law mixed with the massive late-night mail-in ballot drops in key swing states, the corrupted election technology, illegal counting practices, dead voters, and mathematically impossible vote irregularities leads me to question the sanctity of our election results. I believe if these states had followed their own laws, the election results would be markedly different. Remember, in recent American elections, there have been thousands of criminal convictions for election fraud. You are insane if you think this election had none. Again, the Constitution clearly states that state legislatures, not state courts, not governors, not the media, and most certainly not Facebook or Twitter, are expressly given the power to determine electors for the President of the United States. Congress can and should eject the state's electors when elections are not held in accordance with state law, or when election results are corrupted. I plan on doing just that. At this time, I am planning on objecting to the electors from Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. I will not countenance a motion to select electors on behalf of one candidate unless and until we are certain that the presidential election was carried out with integrity and that the results are devoid of fraud. Our sacred obligation under the Constitution demands no less. Every elected official who cares about the future of our nation should join me. The sanctity of our vote is the only thing separating our republic from tyranny. If we don't act now, our votes will become meaningless, our republic will crumble, and the America that we know and love will be forever lost. Every fraudulent vote cast cancels a legal American's vote. Your vote, your voice. Do not let your voice get canceled by these bastards. The amount of fraud we should tolerate in our election is zero. That is why I will object.